Hello, welcome back. This is the strategic management course. You're taking me online, face to face, or as a blended. And this is a supplement for either for my class or for another instructor that's using this short traditional lecture utilizing a concept map as a supplement to your reading, to the author's software that's been presented, and to the handouts and the mind map that you have. Today we're going to be, it's a series, and you're taking me at a community college. Okay, so here's Management 291, Strategic Management, Chapter 3, A Competitive Advantage Approach. Now this chapter here, when you're looking at Chapter 3, it's one of the most intense, informative chapters you'll ever see. I mean, it covers, remember, this class, Strategic Management, is a capstone for all the other courses you've taken, and now you're going to basically come up and see, understand the company as a whole, utilizing all your learning. And as it stated, strategic management, we're looking how you're going to turn the company around in the future, within the next 5 years. Okay, so let's look at this. Now, I'm going to go through here. I'm not going to go into as much detail. You used the book. You got the book behind me. You can see it. Excellent book, well written, a lot of information. If there's some of you that are going to be going on to your bachelor's, or and you decide, hey, maybe I should sell this book, I would keep this book. This book is current, has a lot of information. I'm just pushing that for the book. Okay, so let's see. What are going to be our learning objective? We're going to go through here, and I'm going to go through my concept map. I'm just going to go over. You already read it. We had the discussion board. You utilize the software provided by the publisher. So this is just a quick overview. It's like at the end, hey, what should I know? And again, print out my concept maps. Print out the PowerPoints provided with this, and this is just an outline of what we talked about. Okay, so what are going to be our learning objectives? If I'm going to click on the learning objectives, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. And remember, if you don't see everything else when I come down in here, don't worry about that. Let's see, 150. That's what it is. I'll go. And those of you who had me before, I'm always live. So I won't change it. Okay, 200. We'll see how that works out, okay? So I'm going to go here. What are learning objectives? The chapter is broken down into several areas. Nature and purpose of external assessment. For a strategic point of view, before I can move the organization forward, I have to understand what forces are out there. Remember, it's a learning organization, so what forces are affecting the organization? So we're going to look at an assessment first, and we'll talk about audit, and then we're going to identify 10 external forces that affects the company. Once I understand those forces, then I could make my changes going forward, okay? So real quickly, overview in formulating strategy, and here's the 10 forces, economic, social, cultural, demographic, environmental, political, governmental, legal, technological, and competitive. And right now we're looking more at the political and governmental, the two, different administration. What are the requirements? Remember, there's going to be less taxes for corporations, small all the way to larger one. There's less regulations. So how do I adjust my processes or maybe expansion in the future because of this current administration, at least for the next 2 or 3 years? Okay, so we have that. Okay, so we first have to do what they call an external audit. So you're looking at what kind of trends are out there. What are the events? And again, remember, I'll put and some of these I can't remember. The author talked a lot about SWOT: strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Strength and weaknesses are within the company. Opportunity and threats are outside. This chapter here, external, is going to be on the outside. Understanding. Okay, so now, opportunities. You're going to confronting an organization so that managers could formulate strategies, take advantage of opportunities, avoid or reduce the impact. When you have my concept maps, you only have this level here. I want you to write in. The more senses you utilize by writing in, by following this, or looking at a book when you're reading, say, hey, did I miss anything? Sometimes called environmental scanning or industry analysis. Right now, it's an external audit. Okay, nature of external audit, for lack of better words. You're looking at key areas, either offensively or defensively. How am I going to defend it, or do I have to go on offense? Okay, advantage of external opportunities. and minimize the risk management, the impact of the threats. Okay, and I'm not going to. Here's the model in here real quickly, and your book has it pretty good. So if I look at this, I'm not going to go through it, but if you're looking at it, here's your act to develop a vision. They're going to talk about a vision, establish long-term objectives, value, how do I implement them, and you measure. Make sure how effective they are. Remember, anything you're doing strategically, when you're a middle manager and hire, to hire, it's a larger risk because you're taking kind of your best guess, for lack of better words, from your experience and what you've learned from all the research, and how do I set up the company forward so it's successful and profitable, not only for my employees, but all my stakeholders. Okay? Key opportunities and threats. Sometimes call, okay, we got that. Okay, so we did this. Okay, the next one we're going to look at 5 external forces. Economic forces, social, cultural, demographic, natural environment forces, what's going on there, technical forces. Technology is moving faster than we could do. Everyone's got a smartphone. How do I communicate? Go meeting. There's a whole different way of communicating with the customer. Okay, when identifying, you got to prioritize. You have to be specific. I think you had a previous class in management is with SMART goals. Specific, measurable. Attainable, okay? SMAR, recordable, and let's see, smart, and what do you call it? Timely. Gee, I almost forgot my SMART goals. All right, you got to be specific, actionable, and state the external trends or events or facts. Okay, remember, there's more to it. Look at it. Relationship, and here's the figure. It goes into this. Your book did well. Look at it in the book. You have it. Organizational advocates, external industry factors more important than internal. Industry factors more important. When I'm looking at the internal, I can't be internal. Internally is basically how I react to my external environment. Okay, so that's why we're going external. Next, or maybe next time, the next chapter is chapter 4, and I'll be looking at the internal. Okay. All right, so I've got internal, 5 external forces. I get that. Okay, now this is just looking at the economic forces. Credit depends what you're selling. It's not only credit for me, inflation rate, interest rate, gross domestic product, consumption patterns. Are people using more? If I'm a retailer and Amazon's coming in there more, you see a lot of stores locally, grocery stores and everything else are also doing delivery. Unemployment trends, unemployment's down, so there's less of a pull that I had before, so I might have to pay more. Demand shifts for different goods and industries, monetary and fiscal policy. We haven't seen which way this administration is going forward. They put in a new Federal Reserve chairperson, replaced Yellen. That was the last person with the last administration, with Obama's administration. Now you have Trump's administration. We're going to go forward. What's the European Union community doing with their policies? And remember, this administration is trying to get better deals with, so there isn't a deficit. So all that means that we have to start building inside. So if I'm exporting, bringing my goods from the outside, from other countries, because it's cheaper, I got to start saying, hey, I have to start buying inside because there's going to be tariffs and everything else on there. Okay, and petroleum, OPEC, since we're producing a lot of energy internally, we may do pretty well. You know what I mean? We've got a lot of energy with shale, fracking, for lack of better words, and we've got other. This administration's opened up more of exploration for oil internally within the United States. We may be the number 1 producer of energy within the next 3 or 4 years. I'm just looking at some of the different research that I've been doing. I go, hey, eventually we've been using all the oil from OPEC and everything else, and their economy, they're shifting what they're doing because they don't have so much oil. They're going to be eventually, and I don't want to call it, but eventually going to run out, so we still have a lot of reserves, okay? Okay, so you've got the next one. The next thing is a strong dollar. Now, here's what happens to a strong dollar. A strong dollar means that we could buy more stuff overseas. But a strong dollar hurts us as a business because when I'm selling overseas, my goods are higher because through the exchange rate. So would I want to have a weaker dollar or a stronger dollar? That's part of the class you take in economics. Leads to lower exports, leads to higher imports, makes goods expensive for foreign customers, helps keep our inflation down, allows U.S. Firms to purchase raw raw materials cheaply from other countries because we have, because our dollars, you could buy more. Allows U.S. service to service its debt better. We're a debtor nation. We owe everybody in the world, and the other countries aren't playing fairly with us. And that was always been known. You know what I mean? Spurs foreign investment, encourage Americans to travel overseas. Because why? Because our dollar's strong. I get more for my money. Leads to lower prices because oil globally is priced in U.S. dollars. Encourage Americans to spend money, can buy more for their money. And I said it in a nutshell, but I put this out there. Remember, you could always stop and freeze this and then take a note. The beauty about me recording this, you could go forward. I'll open up. I may not cover everything, but we'll at least you're exposed to it. Okay, some U.S. facts. Again, aging population, less white, 20% of population 65. And that could be part of your workforce, or if you're selling to this group, or you're looking for workers, no ethnic or racial majority in 2075. There's going to be a balance. There's going to be enough of everyone in there. It's just the way, and so I have to understand that. So I can't just say, so when I'm looking at it, how do I do my different target niches? Which one will have a better, strategically, I'm looking. I also teach finance. How is the company going to prepare itself going forward? What products do different cultures want? Okay, and then and this is just the same thing, energy conservation. Is there attitudes to productivity and quality? We still got a good product, very quality. You buy stuff in China, things ain't as good. The steel, the steel industry is coming back in here. One of the issue with the steel industry that I've been reading is that the steel is inferior compared to American steel. They're flooding it. So now you have issues. Are you going to have the steel as strong as it's made in here? So you're bringing the steel back in here. Energy conservation, we are probably one of the leaders. We might have got out of the Paris Agreement, but we're always in the lead. The Paris is not that we're not environmentalists. It's just that the deal wasn't right. From a business perspective, why should we pay China and they don't have to worry about their coal or pollution till 2025, whatever it was, and we had to pay them because they're considered a developing country, and we owe them trillions of dollars through trade. Give me a break. You have to adjust that. So it doesn't mean we're not, the administration not, I understand that, but now your solar panels are going to come in here. So there's a lot of industries. Where do I buy? What doesn't make sense? And number of churches, I don't know what that was, the number of church members. It's just basically the culture, okay? Now, political and governmental forces, increasing global interdependence. And if I'm looking at the economies market, we are still a global market. People say, well, the U.S. is pulling out. We're not pulling out. We just want a good trade deal. People like to buy our product. If anything else, China's keeping their economy going, so people want to buy from China. But now what's happening? The increase of the workers and the pay is going higher. Pretty soon it's not going to be the low-cost producer. Right now they're manipulating some of their the yen, their currency. It's not through the free market. So what's going to happen, you're looking at that, maybe Africa. You got a lot of labor, but the thing is you don't have the infrastructure. So things are changing. The U.S. is now starting to produce more, and we still have a good quality of goods. So whether, in the short run we'll take a dip, but in the long run we'll do very well. Trust me, okay? Now, political and governmental things, number of patents. Remember, a lot of times China or other countries, they don't honor our copyrights or our patent laws. Changes of patent laws. It used to be if I thought I was going to build a car and just put a thought, and now they got to pay me. It's got to say, hey, you got to have a diagram, you got to have an actual plan, not just what you dreamt of. Come up with something that's actually viable, that you actually could create it and make it. Unionization trends, I've seen the union kind of dropping down a little, because if I'm looking at them being more competitive, and when you're looking at a lot of companies, remember, I used to be a union member and at the college, at both colleges, I am an associate member, just another word for a nice collar type of a union person. But when I'm looking at unions, why were unions there? As long as the companies were taking advantage of us, the union made sense. Now, companies are offering benefits. They're doing a lot of things to bring workers in. They're not discriminating. Some are. I'm not going to say over. I'm not naive. You know what I'm talking about? But the general trend is that why would I want to join a union? I'm not getting anything out of it. Now, the trend that you see is going. Union used to be very heavily democratic. But what's happening, all these jobs went. Now you have President Trump or this administration bringing the union jobs back. As they're bringing the union jobs back, you're going to see see a shift from union members being lined up with the Republican Party because they're actually bringing their jobs back. And you know what I mean? So now I have my union members are working again, and it's giving me my security. Yeah, global and state, federal laws and everything else are making it easier. You still have your local laws. Look at California. My goodness, it takes you forever to build anything there because of the cost. And the cost is there, and eventually people are leaving. Not, you know, I'm not saying all, just certain parts of California, because I can't, as a business owner, there's too many regulations. You may go to Texas, other states, and still sell to California, but moving their operations out. Or if you're looking at some of the gun manufacturers in New Jersey, you know, a lot of them are moving out because they have a not such favorable thing. Look, I'm not going one way for guns or anything else. I'm a manufacturer, but out there, people are against any kind of manufacturing, so I have to move my business someplace else, which is a little more friendlier, right? The Second Amendment allows me to produce the guns and everything else, and that's so I'm not getting into it. But as a business, you see, I'm looking at the political and the changes, import and export and tariffs, right? You know, tariffs are going to be coming in. When I say look at tariff, not terrorists, tariffs is because they want to make the even playing field. So if I'm looking at the, you know, and I look at everything, like I look at the mainstream media, the legacy media. I look at other media. Most of the media that a lot of people are looking, the younger generation, and you know, going down, even baby boomers are looking at the alt media because they get different perspectives. You know, they're not telling me what I want to hear. I want to make up my own decision. So that's changing. But see, now the tariffs, let's say, when we build something overseas or we try to sell our products, we have to pay a 20% to 25% tariff, and they could bring their my competitors bringing it in here for 2%. So if you're going to have what they call a mirror tariff, if they're charging us 25%, we're going to be charging them 25%. So now if the tariffs are equal and we have a level playing field, what happens now, you know, the cost may be a little more because of our labor unions or our rates, but we're having a higher quality product, and without that, it's it'll work out perfect for us, I think personally. So now we build it here and sell it overseas because of our quality, our name reputation, okay? And then you have local and state things. Remember, as a business, I can't do that. I just have to be aware. Okay, now the next one is technical technologies. And here's a whole list. You have fueling innovation, technology, you got 3D printers, manufacturing, you've got AutoCAD. So much new technology. Now, you're going to say, oh my goodness, I can't keep up with it. Forget about keeping up there. What technology is affecting your operation? Now, and that could be because my competitor is using it to bring customers in, or my competitor is using it in manufacturing. Strategically, I have to implement that technology, take the cost because it's part of my business, and change my processes. And that's what's going to happen in manufacturing. And then here they had a whole list. I'm not going to go through them. You know, 3D printer, the cloud, everything's in the cloud. I still don't trust the cloud. If what's in the cloud could come down, right? Because like my computer's any safer. Okay, biotech analysis, auto tech. You know, look at a car, self-driving cars. All that's coming. So I have to, if I'm in that business, I have to make the adjustment. Robotics, okay, robotics may replace some of the workforce, but I need people to maintain the robot. I need people to program that. So I'm looking at different kind of skill group. Artificial intelligence, that's me. No, I'm just kidding you. All right, those are something else that to be another technology. Okay, when I look at technology from a company, you can't have a patchwork of strategic plan. You need someone to overlook at it. So the first one is chief information officer. How does he or she basically provide information to the as a manager firm's relationship with the stakeholder? Everyone's with a smartphone. You know, myself. How do I send them emails? How do I get information? It saves me on the mail, but it does other stuff. How do I communicate with them face to face and in real time, quickly, all right? And then a chief technology officer, he or she is at that level, like a technician's working for me, focusing on technological issues like data, data mining, decision support. I still make the decision. Forget the artificial intelligence. They may make certain decisions to a point, but remember, the risk factor With a computer, if you look at Star Wars, Dana, hello, the probability of this is not going to happen because it's looking statistically looking at probability. I'm looking at the probability, but what that data doesn't have is the culture, that feeling, that intuition. Do you see what I mean? That's where Kurt or whoever it was, whatever version, he says, okay, I understand Spark, but this is it. I'm just throwing that in. You know what I mean? So you understand. And then software and the hardware. Do I utilize my own hardware to create my own hardware, or do I buy off the rack? Usually buy it off the rack, it's a little cheaper. Okay? And then results of technology advancements, major opportunities and threats. Again, when must be considered and formulate threat. I'm looking at 4 years in the future, strategically. When I was going to school taking classes, it's 10 years. Now when I do a lot of strategic planning, it's maybe a 2 or 3, because it's so much changing so rapidly. If I could at least get close within 3 years, but I got to plan now to get the workforce, to get the machinery, to have my manufacturing. It's not like it's going to happen overnight, but so I'm planning. And instead of doing it like a massive reorganization, I'm doing a little at a time. How does it affect the organization? Products, services, supplier, distributor. How do I connect with them? Customer manufacturing process, marketing practices, and a competitive position. And now the other thing, when you look at technology, how could I make it come into a new market? Reduce or eliminate cost barriers. I could send everything else electronically. I may send them information for 3D printers overseas. Or I may give them a patent or do something else in here. Between business, shorter production line because computers are doing it. It finds where the fault are. Just-in-time management, a little bit faster. AutoCAD, I don't have to draw it. I could see where there's going to be some conflict. I can make a prototype instead of carving out. I could see it in real life. Will it actually work? I could also show that prototype, everything else, to my new client. Pretend you're in here. You get a visual feeling of this, okay? Okay, now create new competitive advantages more powerful than existing advantages. All right? I know I'm talking a little bit quickly, but I want to cover everything in here. Okay, now some of the competitive forces. If I'm looking at external audit, and all that basically does is identifying rival firms. What's my competition doing? Remember, if I can't raise the cost or I want more value, I better be able to compete with them, or my customers or my clients, my suppliers are going to go over there. Or my suppliers are going to basically utilize the new technology, and they can reduce it by even a penny or a half of a penny or a fraction of a penny, and basically save on the cost because they're making so many. Okay? 7 characteristics, and this one, oops, sorry. Remember, I'm live. 7 characteristics, identify SWOT, weaknesses, opportunities. We already talked about strength, weakness, opportunity. I don't want to go over that. Strive, continue to increase the market share. That's my job. Use vision, missions as a guide. That's the author talked about that. Whether it's broke or not, fix it, make it better. Remember, in business, mine is to make the product better. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but if I have to reinvent the wheel because of the needs of new technology, self-driving car. It's still got a car, I just don't need the steering wheel, but now I have to put the GPS, I have to put all that information, I have to have this for smartphone so it communicates live with individuals. And all that has to be embedded in that software. That's where my chief technical officer takes care of. Okay, acquisition is essential for growth. I may not have thought, why do I need a software company? I'm basically doing manufacturing, but I need that software company, so I bring that talent and that software so I can control part of the logistic or part of the process. Okay, hire and retrain best employees and managers. It takes a while to bring them in. If I know in the future I'm going to need a different type of individual, I may not be able to get them out of the colleges, or I may have a partnership with the colleges and say, hey, I need so many people to understand how to work with artificial intelligence or with the production that's using AutoCAD or a new type of software. I need those people in here. Even though I might be buying off a rack, but I need those tweaks and everything else in here. And the best way is to strive in cost competitiveness, okay? So let me go up in here and key questions about your competitors. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Again, this is all in your book. All I'm doing is how are products made. There's a whole graph in there. How are sales and profits, marketing. And again, there's more information. I'm not going to do it. I'll just show it to you. But if you're looking at that, so you can kind of look at it and learn. But just think about the questions and you write this stuff in. Those of you taking my class, write this in a mind map because you never know what's going to be on the exam. All right? So we took care of that. I went quickly. I'm not covering all that. You already did that in discussion. Okay, now competitive intelligence program. Competitive intelligence. What is that? It's a process gathering and analyzing information There's so much out there going on. One person or a team can't do it. Let the system. What could it combine together? Which ones are it's going to tag? Here's what. Same thing when you do looking for employees. You don't look at a hard paper. You got so many employees coming in there. You either hire a service to do it, and they send the resume and everything else electronically, and they try to match it, and they'll get and they'll bring it. Some of the good people may just fall through the cracks because the resumes are weak or it doesn't have the information you're looking at. But you'll get a good pool and say, out of this group, here's what I think is your best candidate. You still have to interview them. They basically had all the objective things, but that personality, that part of the culture, that competitiveness, that visionary type of individual that I want to bring in, or that person who's not afraid. Look, a lot of people are looking at doctors. Doctors got to be very smart and everything else, but there's doctors that are playing games, video games. Do I want them? Well, he's playing all the video games. I guess some. Why? Most of the surgery now is all done like with the video games, with for lack of a better word, and I'm not trying to be belittle it, but they're using the technology. Some of the cars now, they're going to take away the wheel and just put like the joystick. I had a little problem. I tried to play my grandson with that. My goodness, he's all over the board. Jaja, that's grandfather for Poland. He's moving all these buttons. He's got that thing where I'm still typing away. My smartphone, I thank goodness for Siri where I could record it and it types the word for it. Because I look at a lot of my students out there with 2 fingers, they type faster than I could type with 10. And a small keyboard, okay? 3 basics objectives. Oh, sorry. Of competitive intelligence. Oh, I lost it. What did I do? Let me just bring that back. Okay. R. I must have lost that. I wonder what happened to that. Let me just go back this way. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I must have not put that in there. I apologize. I'll take care of that later. Okay? All right? All right. So now I just, for some reason, might have just deleted it when I put it into my concept map. I'm pretty hyper, if you haven't noticed, and I kind of clicked on it too quick. Okay, the next thing the author talked about, is basically the 5 forces model of competition. And this was, again, in your book, potential development, bargaining, and everything else. All right, so it just shows you everything goes into finding out about your rival, your competitors. Even if you open up a hot dog stand, or if you're a hot dog stand, what's my competition doing? What's my main, the large ones are out there. I'm a small business, medium business. What are my competitors doing? What are the large companies doing? Could I at least do something similar? Okay, identify the key aspects or elements, of a competitive force that will impact my company. Decide what a collective strength of the elements work well, or should I leave the industry, or should I sell the industry to my competitor? Those are options, and then open up something that doesn't have as much competition, or should I just be a niche? I used to do everything, and now because of different competitors, but I do this one thing really well. Maybe that's the niche. That's going to be my strategic. Outsource the rest, or buy from other competitors. My competitors, they're also selling. If I look at for lack of a better word, Samsung. Samsung had the little battery issue, but were all the parts made for Apple? A lot of the technology inside of Samsung produces them. So even though Samsung's sales for their own smartphone went down, they're basically producing, and Apple's went up. So one part of the business is still successful, okay? Okay, rivalry among competing forces. Focus on your advantage over the other companies. Table 3, 4, and here on this table has all these numbers. Barriers to leaving, when the products are perishable, and that's why Amazon basically picked up Whole Foods. They already had the delivery system, but you can't just send someplace like oranges. I want the food today. I ordered today. I want the food because I forgot to order. Oh, you'll get it in 3 days or 2 days. No, I want it today. So when you look at the strategic plan from Amazon purchasing, long-term purchasing Whole Foods, they already had all those logistically. They had the stores there. They had everything else there. They're rechanging now. Whole Foods was losing money because they couldn't compete with the WalMarts and everything else because they carried Walmarts and a lot of the other grocery stores, wherever you're looking at, also carried the main items that I want organic. Even though Whole Foods, anything I want organic had it. So now that whole industry has changed. It's still going to have the organic, brings into my healthy eating, organic customer base, but I was just looking more for the logistics. When consumer demand is failing, so now I have a larger market, okay? Okay, the next one is potential new competitors. Okay, barriers. Remember, why? And look at the competitors. If we are putting a tariff and their companies are say, hey, we're not gonna pay the tariff. What one best way to avoid a tariff? Open up the plants here in the United States. Now, when you open up the plants here, some foreigners, let's say, and a lot of the plants are in here. If you look at Toyota, Hyundai, all those are here. Why? In case the tariff, it's not going to affect me because I'm selling the cars here in the U.S. I don't have to pay the tariff. I'm using U.S. workers. Do you see what I mean? But now other companies may come in because it'll be to their advantage to do here, especially if they do put tariffs for imports coming into the U.S. So I'm making it here. I'm doing well. The tax rate is down to I think like 15 or 18%. Not too bad from 34. Hey, what the heck? I have incentives. A lot of the municipalities or towns, we've got the buildings there that were boarded up or haven't used it. Update them, move them to property, and I get some incentives on that. Okay, and the other one, so I got new competitors coming in just by default. Remember, even, we're going to build in America, but they're going to also come in here, build in America, just to offset that. That's what, because multinational companies have no loyalty to any country. They're just going to do and they're thinking strategically already. So the small and larger ones, we have a little heads up on them because we're already in the market. We just got to make sure we get that target niche, and we may have 1 or 2 years before. Remember, when you look at the business cycle, competitors will come in, but they have to get up and going. So maybe you could get that customer base. Now, when competitors are coming here in the U.S. to do business, you got to follow our rules and everything else, and they have to also basically do a product better than mine with added value. Because why would I go to someone outside? You're satisfying my needs. Okay. Now you're looking at substitute good. Pressure increases when the price substitutes decrease and consumers are switching and decreasing. Now that the economy is building, going up, what they call the Trump effect. Whether you like it or not, whether he's done anything or not, I think he's done a lot to bring from a business perspective, the rules down, the taxes down. So now what's going to happen? But so now my substitute good. What if I'm doing the substitute goods? And I'm selling something, so maybe my substitute good has to bring up the quality to compete with other goods coming in there. Will customers switch? They only switch when the cost is too high or when they don't have money. Bargaining power of suppliers, remember, is increased when there are fewer suppliers, fewer substitutes, and cost of switching raw material. So, and when you really look what's going on with the strategy, and look at the U.S. strategically going forward. If we're always depending on countries outside and they want to raise their rates or shipping costs, the logistics system goes up, it's all passed on to the consumer. Right now, a lot of the countries are dumping. And when you call it dumping, and that's basically putting, the government's helping them. So when they're selling here, it's lower than what you could buy it over there, even with the shipping, but that hurts the economy or the manufacturer here within the U.S. So because of that, we can't be competitive. But now it's changing. We'll have suppliers here. We don't have to rely on them. So now, now China's got to do strategic. Remember, when you look at the strategic planning, the countries looking strategically, European looking strategically, all the other nations strategically have to align. Like it or not, we're one of the biggest buyers. We owe everybody, but now they want to change. So strategically, they have to adjust their model to fit the new political and governmental model here in the U.S. Okay, now when you look at, let me go in here again, potential. So when I looked at bargaining power, pressures increase, of the supplier, this backward integration, is gaining control of ownership of suppliers. And you see a lot of foreign companies are coming in here buying our products so they have control of it. And I think I mentioned with the quality, higher quality product. If I look what China's doing, they want the highest quality products to improve their image of high quality. So they're not going to, German companies, like it or not, still high quality, number one. So how are they going to tell me their secret? No, I buy one of the German high-quality companies if the government allows it, because they don't look at a national threat or a security issue, and then I could take now I see the culture. I understand how they set up the quality, and now I could take that because I own that company. I still keep the company, but I could piggyback it on other industries within my company or within my I want to say process or market niche that I'm selling to. If I'm a car manufacturer, if I'm a pharmaceutical, okay? Bargaining, but now consumer, okay, come on, you could bargain. Remember, just look. When I always tell people in business, as a consultant, what do I tell them in business? Do not get involved with politics. I know they had like Delta Airline and everything else. I know something happened with some happening now that the consumers basically came in and forced them to drop one or two public, don't make this product or do anything else. What you've done by that, you by leaning to one side because they're doing more emails or whatever, you're trying to protect the brand, you basically alienated half of your base. You should do something like FedEx. When they were putting pressure on FedEx said, hey, I don't get involved in politics. I give to both sides, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Socialist, Communist. I don't really care. I contribute to everyone. We are a delivery company. We don't get involved. We are basically shipping things here. Don't tell me boycott this because next going to boycott the next one. You stay out of that. Understand? You stay out of the politics. You could be social responsible by giving and doing all, but not on your business model, on your marketing. You should stay out. That's just my recommendation. Okay, consumers are being concentrated or buying in volumes, intense competition. Your products are. What makes your product different? Okay, let's move up here. So we're doing pretty good here. Let me close all those. Where was I? Bargaining power. Okay. External. Okay, now we're going to go into. Did I get into this? Yes, I did. Okay, now we're going to look into external information. I have to look at two things. Unpublished sources, which basically is market surveys, market research companies, speeches of professional shareholders, television program. I'm monitoring it. I have people that are monitoring. Social media, monitoring what's going on, what's trending, what's not. Could we flip our product to work on that? Look, I'm not looking at today. I'm looking strategically, next 2-3 years. Where do I think the market's going? Like it or not, they're going with a lighter car. Like it or not, they want more environmental. They want cars that have solar panels on it. Like it or not. You know what I mean? So strategically, how do I line up with that? Now, published sources, and publics are periodicals, journals, reports, government documents, abstracts, books, directory, new. I'm looking at what's the trend. Not for now. That's another part of my business, my operation. I'm strategically. How do I align my company? How do I start putting that message? Hey, we're changing. We used to do it by hand. Now we're using a computer. We used to use steel. Now we're utilizing aluminum so the cars don't rust. But we're putting more safety bags. You still have the same strength. There's new technology makes that aluminum that's not rusted but more more resistant to rust. But here's what you have to look at strategically. If I'm looking at GoPro, those are cameras. You could take them in the water. You could jump in the water. You could jump in the water. They're good. It's high quality. Man, the problem they were having strategically, the shares are going down. The sales are going down. Why? Not because the product was inferior, because the product was so good it never broke. If it never broke, what the heck? Why would I buy a new one? So now they're looking at different markets. GoPro cameras, basically good cameras, inexpensive, a couple of $100, but it lasts forever. What the heck? I could put it in my head. I could go on. I could skydive. I could go roller skating. I could do whatever I want, and the camera's good. So since the camera's good, you don't want to take away that quality because that's what made your brand. What you have to do is find a new market. And what's happened, police have all the different cameras on there, and so now when they're running and everything else, it still has that stabilization going up. It doesn't get a good view. It's maybe dependable or may have not the sound. GoPro is looking at that market, not only for police, but for other market. That's a whole new market. Our camera has stabilization, and I'm just using that as an example. I'm not selling one. I don't have a GoPro. Look at me. Do I look like I'm that active? But I have students. I have other people that are utilizing it. I teach a finance class, and we have to see why is the shares going down. So their market is going for that market, and because their camera is dependable. Their camera is smart. Their camera has stabilizing. It has like a 360 view. It gives you everything, not just one thing. They're pretty good. Now they have to sell to that market, and they have to make the adjustments so it works for what they wanted. Will it work? I don't know. But this, do you see what I'm talking about? You don't get rid of your name brand. You have to find new market, and it's a market because that's what's happening. The laws, everyone's when I get my meter reader coming in here, he or she, their cars, they got a camera going forward, backwards. Why? If there's an accident, whose fault was it? Also, it watches the person's sides. They're not smoking. I mean, they're doing because there's certain rules. They're not texting while they're driving, so it protects not only the company, protects the employee, and it protects, and the camera's there, so it has forward and backwards. Okay, so we've got that. So external forces, I've got that. Unpublished, we went through that, and some of the websites they had was Finance Yahoo, Hoover's, and this one here, the Global Edge, MSU. Industry really goes. You could go by the industry that you're in strategically and see what's new, what's innovative, or you can see where to get your information. Okay, now forecasting tools. There's a whole class in forecasting. What's the forecasting? Trying to help you using technology, trying to tell you what's the forecast going forward. How are we going to be able to forecast accurately? Okay. Now, certain factors. Okay, factors such as forecasting is technology, cultural changes. What's the culture going? You got Generation Z. What do they want? What are they used to? That's a whole new generation. But they're tied in with technology. But how are we going to basically be able to market to them, or what are they utilizing? What I'm scared of. They may take that second nature. I don't want to have a steering wheel. I want self-driving so I could text all the way through. And that's how I sell it. Okay? Shifts in government priorities, social and values, unstable economic condition, unseen events. You're taking a guess on that. And sometimes the software, and there's softwares in there, I forgot the name of the software. You could say what if scenarios, and you put in the probabilities, and price increases. So, but they've went so much further now. But I need the right person to understand that software and how to utilize it. Okay, so the next one's making assumption. What's assumption? Don't assume, but you have to. That's all forecasting. I'm assuming which way I think the market's going. I'm assuming by looking at certain trends. And a lot of things I'm not sure what the trends are, so I have to take that. I bring younger people in. You think this is sell? I do focus groups. I do surveys. Not on the phone. I get enough to the survey. I don't know who you are on the phone, but down the road it's going to be like this. You're going to talk to me, and I'm going to actually, some of the new phones are going to be there. Like if I look at FaceTime or Skype, I could talk to the person. Hi, I'm George. I'm doing a survey. I'm with this company here. And right now I'm going, I don't know, you're in my space. Younger people, no issue. They're already doing. When you put the apps down, what are the apps doing? Give me information. The other thing you got to be careful. All those apps now are following you around. Is there a security issue? Is there a data breach? Now, with the government put in laws, remember the laws that come into with technology that is available to me now are basically because technology is way ahead of what the laws and the regulations are. So when they catch up, the way I'm getting data mining and just getting information about the customer. Look, I typed something on Amazon. Customers like you also did it. I type words, it already fills in. Is this the word you want on my smartphone? Kind of good because sometimes I'm not a best speller. Okay, so we got that. So you're making the assumptions. Let's close that off. Okay, now the next one you look at the industries, and this one here, if I'm external factor evaluation, again a matrix, and again you have different, summarize the matrix. The matrix. I'm looking at the matrix in the future. We may be in a matrix. Who knows? This could be all dream. I'm just trying to tie it in with my younger group. I mean, who knows? Pretty soon I'll be out of a job. You just put on a thing. Okay, teach me how to fly, and it reprograms my mind. All we are is electrical impulses anyway. All right. Social, cultural, demographic, environmental, legal, everything we do, and steps. First steps, external factors. Right. You do a weigh-in. You do a rate. Multiply by the rate. A little math in here. The software that does it for you. And this one here is a matrix on the store. Let me see. I can make it in here. It was from your publisher. I think he copied it. All right, so it tells you to neighborhood. All it is you got to still use a statistical analysis. You have to use mathematics, and you still have to do that intuition from the person or groups to say that. The computers and everything else are going to give it to me. They're pretty darn close, knowing what my probability is, but is it exactly? And the last one we're going to have is basic competitive profile matrix. And again, identifying the firms, major competitors. Those of you taking me any kind of class, Intro to Business or Management 111 or Business 121, depends what college I'm teaching at, you basically have to know your competitors, your strengths and weaknesses, and then you have to know your strengths and weaknesses of your competitors. And your strength hopefully overcomes their weaknesses, just so customers try my product. And my weaknesses, my competitor may nullify that. Okay. And critical success factors are basic internal and external. Next chapter will be internal. And then again, they get the same matrix, and here's the rating, and then what's the advertising, the quality, the management. Remember, management is internal, but if I'm a shareholder, who's making the money go? Because right. Financial position, you take me for finance or financial community. Look, I push community colleges. If you look, most instructors to teach at community colleges, you have some that basically went to school, never been in the workforce, in their discipline. Most of the instructors, a lot of community colleges, we come from the industry. We understand the industry. So we're basically teaching you like a consultant would be teaching you. All right? And then it's in there. All right, so I've got everything else in here. Hey, I think we've done that. We're finished. Let me see what I got in here. Expand, so I can make a nice closure. Level 1, view, and I'm going to put it at, I'll do it as 100, see what's 100. And it's kind of hard to see, isn't it? I'm live. Remember, just like you in the classroom, only I'd have more questions. So I went through all this. This is just a summarization. The book, the software, everything else that's utilized in the book. Just in case you works out well. And if I'm not your instructor that's teaching this course, I covered everything else, found through the PowerPoints and structure. This is a quick outline on 2 pages. You could study for the exams. And the software that comes with the book gives you a thing to study. You could do practice quizzes, so you do well. Remember, what's going on in college with technology and the software is not that the old days, my days, it's all lecture. I want the software teaches you the ideas, looking at different learning styles, looking at different times, looking at different way to present the material. In the classroom, or when we do our discussion board, which replaces the lecture if you're on a fully online, or a blended, you know what I mean? You still do all the software, everything else, is the discussion. So you conceptually understand it. Not that you go to a job and I'm doing it, especially a middle manager. Okay, well, I know all these words. Did we do an external audit? What are the economic factors? You have to be able to understand the concept and not just the vocabulary. I could hire someone. I could get a parrot to do the vocabulary. How does the pieces fit? Now I'm in that position. I'm doing environmental scanning. I'm looking at my competitor. I'm using software just to make sure I didn't miss anything. I have the right individual. I'm going forward. So the classroom time in the lectures or in the discussion board is more taking this concept and coming up with how would you apply this? How would you do it if you're in that position? All right? Again, my name is Dr. George Machaki. You're taking me on an online class, face-to-face class, or a blended, or another instructor's utilizing my concept maps and this quick overview to get you ready. Some students like to look at it first and then read the book, or some students and see. So you get like a quick summarization, and then you basically go on. All right? So I'll see you in the next. What do you call it for the next section we do this, and have a nice day again. Okay, bye. And always sign up at the community colleges. We try to help you, and it's a study flow. Let's see how many minutes I got in here. 47, not too bad. I try to do it 30. A lot of information in this chapter. Everything is well worth it. You need to know it. All right, bye.